Hey, let me ask you a question about this. I haven't heard your view on this. A couple of months ago, Elon Musk, through Twitter, X, launched a lawsuit against some advertising sort of, I'm not going to use the word cartel, but it was like a group of advertisers who were concerned about hate speech online. And he sued them, alleging bad faith, that they were basically trying to put Twitter out of business. After Elon Musk's lawsuit, this coalition was disbanded. Do you know anything about that lawsuit or its status? Do you have anything to say about that?
Actually, yes. We did a major report on this at the Foundation for Freedom Online. The cartel was called, as it was in the past tense, the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, and they actually shut down. They ceased operations shortly after that lawsuit was filed, also shortly after we published a report on the government contracts that many of their members have in the US, totaling over $1 billion to many of the big advertising agencies that were a part of this cartel that boycotted X or encouraged boycotts of X and went to tech platforms, with, helpful advice on their content moderation policy and how they could censor more people. That's shut down now. And that happened shortly after the lawsuit from X and also after investigations by the House Judiciary Committee. But what that organization was, it represented, I believe, because it was a part of the World Federation of Advertisers, which represents over 90% of all advertising spending worldwide. So it's basically the entire advertising industry that was involved in this group. And it had one purpose, which was to create uniform standards of censorship on social media and on online platforms. And that's exactly what they did. They would go to platforms like Spotify and say, hey, did you know that Joe Rogan, your top podcaster, had a vaccine skeptic on? Were you aware of this? This could be a problem. We don't like this. That's essentially what they were doing. And it's kind of extraordinary because the platforms and the personalities that they complained about were extraordinarily popular. Joe Rogan, the #1 podcaster in the world, and they were complaining that, about one episode with a vaccine skeptic. They also, in communications that were obtained through congressional subpoenas, you can see them admitting to targeting conservative media, targeting media they didn't like, by watching them like hawks for any transgression of their principles. So I think they specifically mentioned the Daily Wire and Breitbart News, how that specifically watched those sites for any violations so that they could go to their clients and say you shouldn't advertise on these websites. So they admitted to unevenly applying their own standards to websites that they didn't like. But I'll say another thing about the advertising boycotts related to what I just said about Joe Rogan. It's kind of a trick, and you can see how ideological these people are when you look at their internal communications, because many of the platforms and personalities that received the most advertiser boycotts were, extremely popular platforms. Tucker Carlson, almost all his advertisers left when he was at Fox News. Joe Rogan. You see this massive advertising conglomerate complaining about his guests. Twitter, X, over 100 million users. So these are huge audiences that advertisers should want to be in front of, and yet these advertising agencies and these advertising cartels are telling them, well, the risk to your brand is so great that you shouldn't be on there. There'll be a massive consumer backlash. But there's never been any sign of a consumer backlash. The only backlash against advertisers for advertising in these places has come from the media. It's come from activists. It's come from a vocal minority of, journalists and activists. It hasn't come from the public. No, there's never been a mass consumer boycott of any brand because their advertisers appeared on conservative media or appeared next to an offensive post on X. It's all been from journalists and the activist class. The only time actually in the last 5 years where you do see massive consumer backlashes against brands come from the brands being too woke, like in the case of Bud Light or in the case of Gillette in 2019 when they did their toxic masculinity ad. That's where you see brands actually losing customers and losing market share over a consumer backlash, not because they advertise on platforms that are too free speech friendly.
That's exactly right. You know, that's what happened to us at Rebel News in early 2017. I've seen internal documents at Google, YouTube, where they say, oh, yikes, Rebel News is pretty spicy. Better warn the advertisers. Really? So they were activists within YouTube, Google that were trying to block us. And we managed to find other ways to survive. But before we were shut down, we were on track to make $1 million a year from YouTube ads, and that's been reduced to zero. We're still on YouTube because they haven't deleted our account, so we still want to talk to people there. But that has cost our company coming up on $10 million, which is a lot of crowdfunding we've had to do to survive. It's absolutely atrocious, but what do you do? There was nowhere to go until Rumble came along, and it's still only, about 1% the size of YouTube, but they've had a real dedication to free speech. And of course, Elon Musk buying Twitter was the biggest thing of all. I see Guy Verhofstadt, who's a big European Union bureaucrat. He's tweeting just today about how delighted he is that some investment firm estimates the value of Twitter is down by 75 or 80%. I mean, just the glee with which the European Union bureaucrats want to destroy Elon Musk, and it's purely ideological. It's not just, I mean, I saw the other day that Elon Musk was saying he's worried about going to the United Kingdom physically, like he's worried about traveling there because you have politicians there calling for his arrest over Twitter, speaking candidly about some of the mass immigration and the race riots there. Here's a clip of Elon Musk saying that. I mean, I don't know if this is just, if he's just being dramatic, but the world's most industrious man, the most prolific entrepreneur, the space adventurer, the electric car builder, the essential, indispensable man, perhaps the most creative man, certainly the largest wealth creator in history, he just drops the comment that he is afraid to travel to the United Kingdom for fear of being arrested, not for any crime, but for his opinion. Here, take a look at this.
There's a lot of, I mean, although we've got quite a lot of bureaucracy here, but in Europe they've got country-level bureaucracy, and then they've got EU bureaucracy on top of that. I mean, the EU headquarters in Brussels is a monument to bureaucracy. It's really next level. And they unlike America, they don't have a First Amendment. You don't actually have freedom of speech in Europe. But we're kind of like a pretty rare situation having freedom of speech. So, like there's crazy stuff happening in the UK where people are getting like 2-3 year prison sentences for Facebook posts. Yeah, like I'm like I don't think I should go to visit Britain because I'm like they're gonna like drag out some tweet and say 2 years in prison for this tweet or something bullshit like that, So anyway, I think that's it's Trump elected. We can put a stop to that stuff and say like, no way, no, nope, no throwing people in prison for random social media posts. That's crazy. Yeah, it's happened a lot. No, I mean it's so crazy in Britain that they actually have released convicted pedophiles in order to imprison people for making social media posts. That is a real thing that happened. Insane.